When we spoke on our podcast, we talked a bit about plant medicine. How did you get into that?
Well, when I was young I think the first time I ever experimented with mushrooms or acid or any hallucinogenic psychedelics was about 22. But it wasn't with a specific goal in mind. I was having fun. We'd go camping and take mushrooms and enjoy nature and the campfire and stuff like that. There wasn't a high or strong spiritual aspect with it or anything like that, but I recognized the value for that. So I would say that in my late 20s, I started using plant medicine to, for more of a spiritual and introspective type use, or as it's intended. Now, I'm glad you asked that because I was going to kind of bring it up, but the conversation didn't go that way. But one of the reasons that I did choose Playa del Carmen out of maybe other areas in Mexico that I could have gone is that I took a very high dose of mushrooms, and that was I had specific questions in my mind. And when I came through that trip, Playa was calling. You know what I mean? That's kind of where the decision I made when I was connected to whatever it is you connect with. And that was a big deciding factor in that. And when were you a guest on my podcast? That was December, correct?
Sounds about right. I don't remember at this point. Time's flown.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to share this. Feel free to cut it out if you want. This is the good stuff. I am not a beginner when it comes to plant medicine. Like I said, I've been doing since 22 in one shape or form or the other. And I conservatively, I probably got decently over 100 mushroom experiences under my belt. I've been through what I thought was the gamut. I've had amazing happy trips. I've had very emotional trips. I've had the introspective ones where you're asking those questions, the difficult questions of yourself. I've been through what I would consider bad trips. And, I thought that I had pretty much experienced everything. And my girlfriend here, I actually got her into it. We've taken a couple times together. She's had some amazing experience. I think I shared some with you. Sure, she was talking with some lost relatives and connected with her great grandmother. Very healing experiences. On New Year's Eve, we decided to ring in the new year by getting clear on, some things and our direction and everything else like that. So we took what I consider to be a very conservative dose of 3.5 grams. To me, that, I've taken up to 7 or 8. So for me, 3.5, I handle that very easily. Even if it gets really deep or really emotional, whatever it is, it's something that I didn't even think twice about. But my experience that night, I can say with a high degree of certainty that I know what hell feels like. And it's not physical pain. I have never been in a place that was so dark, so hopeless. The level of despair that I was feeling. I've taken mushrooms by myself many times. I don't know, it's going to be a while till I take them again or anything. And I certainly will never do it alone because it was that powerful. The level of hopelessness and despair that I experienced was something that I couldn't even comprehend. And I'm not trying to be dramatic here. I'm scared to do mushrooms again. I'm not scared of, that's not a terminology that I typically use. If she wasn't here, I can say with a great degree of certainty that I may have caused myself physical harm or killed myself. I want it out. I want it out. And that's not being dramatic or exaggerating. I just have never experienced anything like that. It was so dark. I don't know. I wasn't prepared for that, especially on what I consider to be a light to moderate dose.
Was it a different strain?
It was. And I don't know if I've tried it before. It was different than the stuff that we normally get. Like we normally go with golden teachers. We've got a small selection that's available to us very, very easily. But it was something different. I can't remember what it was. But normally, and I think you could probably attest to this, normally even when you come out of a bad trip or something that's pretty heavy, you can still recognize the value and the education and what you were supposed to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. My ayahuasca was like that. It was very, very, very heavy. But towards the end, I could see my part in how it got heavy.
Right. I didn't have any of that. it went away, and I am almost 2 months removed from it. And I'm still like, I don't know what the point of that was. Though for me, there was no lesson I could figure out. There was no nothing. It was just dark. And I don't know how else to describe it. I don't feel that I learned anything from it. I don't feel that there was any lesson in what I went through. I'm trying to get some distance between it and get some, distance and clarity and all that. Still nothing.
I wonder if it just needs, I think you're on the right track, more distance and time.
Yeah. That was an experience that I don't know, man. Like you hear about bad trips, and I've had what I consider to be bad trips. Nah. That was a level that I hadn't experienced, and I certainly was not prepared for. And I was disappointed because if you go through something like that, you want there to be a lesson or some sort of revelation or some sort of understanding of something when you come out the other side. And there was nothing.
I haven't been through that in plant medicine. I've been through challenging trips, very challenging. I've been torn down to nothing, experienced the death of everybody I care about, including myself. That was pretty heavy, but I got a lesson out of it. One thing that might help you is, and I didn't experience this as a result of plant medicine I find these days I'm getting more out of meditation than I do with adding something to it. So I still,
Likewise.
this coiled, I don't know if that resonates for you. Maybe somebody, when I was in Playa, I hung out with a shaman, and he said to me, and we would smoke cigars, and he said to me, there's something under the surface with you, like this darkness, this heaviness. And I've sat with that because I think he was right. And it just made me aware of that darkness and heaviness so that I could do something with it. So sometimes maybe that's the lesson, is becoming aware of that.
Yeah, it could be. I haven't been able to figure it out. I've got a friend of mine I don't think he would consider himself a shaman, but he does a lot with plant medicine and does a lot of guidance and healing with people, and he does retreats, and he's incredibly experienced on using it to heal people and working with people through an immense array of different things. And I haven't really, I think I've got a process enough now to where I want to talk to him about it and see if I can get some insights from him, just because it is relatively like I said, I'm not inexperienced with this, and I've studied it. So it's not like it's something that I'm just doing flippantly, and it's, even if the trip was bad or super heavy, I've always gotten something out of it. I've always been able to walk for it with some sort of enlightenment, some sort of lesson, some sort of gained insight. Wow. I mean, that was just, even looking back at it, I'm like, there was just nothing, man. It was the strangest thing. I laugh about it now, but it's like
Yeah. Very bleak.
Absolute and utter despair and hopelessness, coupled by a darkness. And that's the only words that I can use to describe it. It was intense. It was intense. And it's not something that I want to go through again. I mean, if I knew there was a lesson on the other side, or if I was clearing out something that I had in me, which it might be what it is, who knows? But if I felt like there would be some sort of resolution or some sort of insight or something, if there was anything, I would risk it again. But that was the underlying current of everything, is that there is nothing. There is no resolution. Just hopelessness. There is nothing else. Just pain and despair.
Is that true, though?
No, but you could not have convinced me otherwise at the time. And I don't, for me, I've racked my brain every which way possible trying to figure out what the lesson was. Because I always look at the plant medicine as a teacher that shows us things that may be uncomfortable, but in order for us to learn and to grow. And I was searching for that at the time. I was aware enough that I'm like, this is absolutely horrible, and I want out. I want this to end. I want out. To the point where it was just, and even being cognizant of that, I'm like, there has to be something here. There has to be a lesson. There has to be something. And to which I would be answered, you're wrong. There's nothing. Just pain. Just despair. There is no hope. Nothing. And I was like, that's bullshit. So it was a very intense experience, and like I said, one that I do not wish to experience again. My girlfriend brought up they're having some ceremonies near here with some different plant medicines. I want to go to this one. Let's go to this one. And I'm like, absolutely not. And I would have been all about it before.
I don't know what to say other than you would have to dig into that a bit and
I
look
spent
at
almost 2 months trying to dig into it, and I've got nothing. And that is that's unusual. Like I said, I've had bad trips before. I've had heavy trips. I've had emotional ones. I've had sad ones. I've had you name it. I've run the gamut. But I've always come away with something, and I got nothing on this one, man. Nothing. So maybe the answer is go to something heavier. Go to San Pedro. Go to ayahuasca. Go to straight DMT, and have a conversation with those beings and find out what's up. I don't know, but maybe I don't know. I don't know. I'm
have
gonna
you
talk
only
to my
tried
friend.
mushroom?
What's that?
I found with ayahuasca you could have a conversation.
Yeah,
So maybe you
that's
need
what I've
that.
heard. That's what I've heard. And DMT as well, like straight DMT. That's supposed to let you have straight up, like ayahuasca, a conversation where you speak to whoever and you can actually ask questions and have a conversation, elicit knowledge.
I've tried Bufo, and that wasn't my experience. Bufo was like, here's every emotion all at once, all within 30 seconds or 10 minutes. Enjoy.
Yeah, here, deal with it.
Yep.
Yeah,
There
not
was
trying to bring a downer onto your podcast or anything, but
well, my intention for asking for bringing this subject up was, do you recommend if you're going through something tough to try plant medicine? And I guess as long as you're not experiencing whatever that trip you had was, that maybe.
prior to that, my answer would have been a absolute resounding yes. I feel it helped me work through a lot of different stuff. It helped me. It alleviated symptoms of depression that I was experiencing. I have only experienced positive, highly positive things from plant medicine prior to that one time. Which intrigues me because now I really want to know why.
Have you read The Surrender Experiment? It's by a guy who just decided to start letting life guide him. So whenever life bounced him in one direction or another, he just went, okay. He meditated every day for quite a bit. So he was very in contact with himself, but he just listened to what feedback life was saying. Maybe it's saying don't take plant medicine for a while.
Well, I'm gonna, if that is the advice, I'm gonna heed that for a while. I've got a feeling the further I get from it, because after that I was like, I don't know if I'll ever do this again. I can't do this again. And as I've gotten further from it, I think my natural curiosity and search for knowledge is kind of kicking in, and I'm trying to figure out why. And I've always been able to use plant medicine to find out certain reasons why in the past. So I think there will come a time again where it's the right situation, the right time. But what I can say is that I will have somebody there.
And that's probably wise advice if you're trying plant medicine the first few times and you're going through something heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Because it shows you deep, deep, deep shit about yourself. And it can be very, very, very heavy.
Yeah. I've had that before, Jeff, where it tears away these layers. It tears away these masks that we put on. It tears away these constructs that we show to other people and even to ourselves. It strips that away and it leaves you naked and bare. And it can be a terrifying experience. It can be a very deeply emotional experience. But, for every single time I've gone through something like that, there has still been this sense that the universe is essentially a kind place. There is, that there is positivity, that, there's always been something that I garnered from it and like, wow, okay, I feel better, or I feel like I know more about myself, or I feel like I have better direction on whatever it is that I'm facing. I've always gotten something like that, except the once. So,
well, even on a ratio like that, let's say you've done it 100 times and you've had one where you can't figure it out. I would still say on the whole,
if nothing else, I earned a higher degree of, I guess, respect, because I would cowboy before. I would take pretty heavy doses all by myself and just ride it and wherever it went. And I always had this innate sense that I could handle it. And I do not have that anymore.
maybe that's the lesson.
Maybe. Which I would expect that from, and I've guided a lot of people on on their first experiences with plant medicine and mushrooms specifically, not other types. And I've helped people work through stuff. And I've been that. I'm not saying that I'm any sort of master or spiritual guide or anything, but I have enough experience. I've been able to pass on that experience to other people and help them get the benefits from the plant. And I've always had this, maybe it's a little bit cocky or something, but I always felt like I could handle myself, that it could be a emotional place. It could be a rough place. It could take you into places that are scary, but that it would always be good. And I don't have that sense anymore. So if anybody, I would still recommend it for people, especially if you're going through something, you're experiencing heavy depression or things of that nature, because I've found in the past that it can really alleviate that. But now I would add the asterisk that you need to have somebody with you.
I think I can think of one trip where, strangely enough, the trip was very happy. And then after I came out of it, I went into like this immediate 6-month depression.
Really?
Yeah.
Usually it's the
other way
opposite.
around. Yeah. Yeah. That was a strange one.
How many times have you done ayahuasca?
Only once.
Okay. That's something that I still would like to experience, that and DMT, both, but more for the elevated level of experience, because I don't have a reference point, but I've heard from many friends who have tried it that, there's mushrooms and then ayahuasca and DMT, and it's a whole different level of experience.
I found ayahuasca to be similar. I've done maybe not as many as you, but it's still 50, 60 mushroom trips. And I've done very heroic doses. I did a guided one with like 6 other guys, and we had a shaman. And I told the shaman, he asked how experienced I was, and I went, bring it. Just bring it, man. And he was in the kitchen chopping up the mushrooms, and everybody kept walking by me, and they were going, Jeff, did you see how big of a pile he's making for you? It was like everybody's pile was like this big, and mine was like...
Yeah.
So, I'm experienced too. I found ayahuasca to be very similar to mushroom, but there was this spirit in it, and it did talk to you when you needed it. And mine, I can't remember if I told you on our podcast episode, but the shaman gave me a pretty big dose, because again, I said, I'm experienced with this, and I'm a big guy, and, give it to me, bring it. So he gave me like the full shot glass, whereas everybody else was having half a shot glass. And an hour in, I felt something. I felt like tingling, but everybody else in the circle was like gone. They were in space. So I went back up. I was like, I barely feel anything. And sorry, while I was laying there, I heard this voice say, just be patient. Don't rush this. Just be patient. So I went back up, asked for another shot glass, and the guy went, all right. The shaman went, okay, let's go for it. And he poured me another full one. Everybody else is still on half a shot glass. I'm on 2 full shot glasses.
Yeah.
I took it. I went and laid back down. And almost immediately, this voice said, I told you to be patient. And I threw up.
Mm-hmm.
And then immediately went into this trip. And this trip was just hell. We were in Playa at the time. So we were off in the jungle. And so we were laying on the ground with the canopy of the jungle above us. And Angry Birds?
Mm-hmm.
All of the leaves were angry birds, and they were all staring at me with those eyes, and they all knew all of the bad things I had ever done in my life. And it was just like all of this shame and everything was pointing at me. So I've had that similar experience on mushrooms, but yeah, that voice that kept whispering things to me was unique.
Yeah. I've heard from, like I said, I have a lot of friends that have done ayahuasca and DMT. They say the same thing. It's ayahuasca, there is one voice that you can speak with, the grandmother, and will guide you and you can have conversations with. With DMT, there are multiple entities, but it's very strange that all the friends of mine that have done DMT will describe, even if they weren't the same, different friends, not connected, different groups, whatever, will describe speaking, hanging out with, interacting with these entities, and they have basically the same kind of story. That is very intriguing for me as well. But I heard it, I don't know who it was. Maybe it was one of the guys that was on Joe Rogan. I don't know. But there was who was it? Shoot. I can't remember. I'll think of it later. But they took a pretty significant dose of DMT, and they were in this realm. they were gone for 8-10 minutes. In their experience, they were gone for 6 months and they had a whole another life and a marriage and a family and everything else underwater. So when they came back out of their trip on the DMT, they had trouble with air because they were used to breathing water. They were gasping and they're like, and all this stuff. And they're like, oh, what do you know, they're like, hey. And yeah, they had lived under the sea and had a whole entire life for 6 months before they came back, which is intriguing, I guess. But you get some of these stories like that, and DMT is a very powerful. That's just the raw essence of all this other stuff. Like ayahuasca, yes, you get DMT with by mixing the leaf and the vine and boiling it. But DMT is just raw dogging it.
I've tried straight DMT, but I've also tried Bufo, which is DMT. I don't quite know the science behind it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about Bufo. Really?
Bufo is a toad venom from the Sonoran Desert. I might have that wrong. When I took Bufo, he showed me these little crystals, and in the crystals there's fractals, and it's psychedelic, paisley, very colored. And he goes, I collected this myself. It's just such a cool little moment. And you take in a glass pipe and he lights it for you, and you breathe out and you do breath work before that. His wife, I think it's his wife, she's there playing singing bowls in the corner, and she's playing into you taking Bufo. It's just very elegant and feminine and beautiful. And so she's right there. I'm sitting here, and he takes you through a meditation and then a breath work, and then brings you into, he lights the pipe for you and you inhale it. And so you're sitting up and then you lay back down onto a mat. And it was like experiencing, like I said earlier, it's like experiencing every single emotion coming at you. And you have no choice but to weather that and connect with that sky. So you are the sky. And here's all of the emotions coming at you all at once. Now, I didn't experience like negative emotions. There was no depression or anything like that. It was just very, very, very beautiful. And when I came out of it, like I sat up as long as I could, and then you're supposed to lie down. And then when I came, I still had a sense of time. Like I didn't go anywhere, but I still had the sense of time. Like I could tell it was about 10 minutes long. But when I came out of it, the first thing I saw was that woman. And she was just like even more beautiful coming out of that. Just very
it was almost angelic.
And that's what I became close with one of the guys there. And he called her his angel, and he got a kiss on the cheek from her, and he was so happy for the rest of the day. But yeah, she had like that Vaseline glow. Like, in old movies where they would put Vaseline on the lens to make women more soft. And yeah, she almost had that glow on her. And she's playing the singing bowls, and he's sitting right beside you playing this, I don't know, like lute type thing. I don't know what it was. And you just follow the music and follow the emotions.
That sounds like a really good experience.
It was. Somebody described it like you're having your soul removed, scrubbed clean, and then put back. And I would agree with that.
I think we could use that from time to time.
I think so.
For sure.
So I would recommend that if you get a chance.
I will definitely keep that in mind. If it comes my way, I think I could experience a soul's cleansing. That would be a bad thing. Would be a bad thing at all. Well, we've covered the gamut of things, huh?
We have, and I was just thinking where to go from here. I have one question left for you.
All right.
So you've been through, the hell of a divorce, and maybe you're still kind of contending with that negative trip. But what's one piece of gratitude you have because of this journey you've been through over the last 10 years or so?
If you really want me to try and narrow it down to one thing, I would say that going through that divorce and going through the financial ruin at the same time, it completely shaped me. Not that I was unhappy before. I'm not going to say I was unhappy, but I really wasn't living life completely. Some parts of my life I was living. I wasn't like completely out of alignment with my core values and who I was. But now I would say that I am more completely in alignment. I know where I'm going. I learned so much from the divorce in terms of what need and will expect and will tolerate in relationships. My relationships outside of one, my relationships since then have been very fulfilling. They didn't work out, but they've been so much healthier because I know myself better. I know what I'm willing to tolerate. I will walk away from something that doesn't serve me. I'm not going to stay in something again for long periods of time that is bad. There's things obviously not just going to walk away at a whim. There's some things you work together on as a couple, but when there's some certain things that you just need not put up with, you know. And I just like my direction in life so much more. I like who I am as a person without all the extra stuff. And I like my direction. Life has been had ups and downs, of course, but really fulfilling and much more in alignment with who I want to be.
I really like that. And I think that's what a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but a lot of people who have done the healing work, the tough inner work, say something similar. So, I mean, it's a tough journey, but I'm glad you came through it, and I'm glad you came through it stronger.
I feel like I did. And, that's another thing, too. You come through stronger because I think that especially for men, an easy life does not build character. An easy life does not build a truly resilient and strong man. We need challenges. Now, sometimes those challenges at the time seem almost overwhelming, like we can't get through them. But when you get through them, and you will, you are stronger, more mature, more wise, and just a better person for the experience because you know that you can make it through. That forges character to me.
And you can tell people who haven't been through something tough versus people who have been, like there's something in their eye or how they carry themselves.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, Steve. Well, fantastic conversation as always. I dig it. Where can people find out your podcast?
I just look for the Ronin mindset. The Ronin, for those people who don't know, is a rogue samurai, and the closest translation to English for the Japanese word Ronin is wandering man. So that's where I find my passion and purpose is wandering and traveling and experiencing new things. So it seemed like a fitting thing combined with my affinity for martial arts and Asian culture seemed like a fit. So the Ronin mindset, we talk mostly about, people who are living more free and true to themselves, whether that means most of the time in this case it's traveling and things like that. But it all goes down to just that, because most people who end up traveling extensively got that way by going through some sort of traumatic experience that changed them and said, hey, I need to live much more in alignment with who I am. That leads them to the path that they're on.
Agreed. I was just thinking travel has this way of stripping down everything to what's important. And I think that's such a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Steve.
Good stuff.
Thanks again.
Appreciate you having me on, Jeff. It was fun. I loved it.
Thanks for coming on.